Good morning, everybody, and welcome. We'll give it
Morning.
just a minute for everybody to join us. So if you want to go ahead and put into the chat where you are joining us from today, we would love to see that. We always like to see where people are. We've had a few very exotic places. I think we had Costa Rica once. That was kind of fun.
In this remote world, they could be working from anywhere.
That is exactly right. The beauty of it. All right, well, let's go ahead and get started. So again, good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's presentation that is sponsored today by the Alameda County Workforce Development Board. My name is Tara Brennan, and I'm the events manager here at CEA. And before we start today's webinar, I just want to go over a couple of housekeeping details with you. Your audio is muted, but we really do love to have your interaction. So go ahead, and if you've got any questions or comments, you can go ahead and put those into the chat box. That's where we're all going to kind of be monitoring today. So your participation is great in the chat box. Also, if you've got any technical difficulties that I might be able to help you with, you can put those in the chat box as well. There will be a very quick survey at the end of this. It'll actually be a QR code that you can take a picture of, and it'll take you directly to the survey. So it's very quick and easy. And we really appreciate all of your feedback. Also, just a reminder that this webinar is being recorded today, and it will be available through the Alameda County Workforce Development Board's website. I'll post that in the chat box at the end. And that should be posted later on this week. So with all of that said and done, I'd like to go ahead and introduce Kim Guzman, our president and CEO here at California Employers Association, along with Natalie Jimenez, one of our director of member services. And also participating in today's presentation, we have representatives from the California Franchise Tax Board, as well as the Bay Area Community Services. So Kim, I will let you take it away.
Thank you, Tara. I hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving. I enjoyed a little time off, a little bit of turkey, and I can't believe tomorrow we're already hitting December. So we have had, it's been a tough year for all employers, but we're in year 3 of the pandemic, and that really has tightened up our labor market. We're hearing from a lot of employers that they're just struggling to find good talent. And so you combine that with the fact that inflation is high. We're all always watching the penny and the almighty dollar. And we're also in a time where there's a lot more humanity in the workplace, which is allowing for a lot more well-being. And we're hearing a lot more about inclusivity and expanding your talent and making sure you're doing everything you can to give your business the best foot forward. So a wonderful thing that we are doing now is working with Alameda County Workforce Development Board on how can we do new things to expand our talent pool. And so LaToya and David brought to our attention that employers oftentimes are not aware that there's a whole talent pool around all of us that we might not be tapping into, and we need to learn more about. And that is working with job seekers who are experiencing homelessness. So something that oftentimes employers just don't think about. Now you might wonder, well, why are you moderating this, Kim? And the reason CEA is involved in this project is we work all year long with Alameda County and Alameda County employers. We are here to provide peace of mind to employers. We are a not-for-profit association, trade association, and we are here to help employers with all those questions you've got about hiring and firing and COVID and employees that might get injured, or employees who are pregnant and need time off or leave of absence or anything else. So you may have seen all year long, last year, this year, and going into next year, there is a wonderful resource for employers in Alameda County. It's the Alameda County HR hotline. So again, just want you to know there's this free HR hotline, and throughout the year, we'll be bringing you presentations like this. They're designed just to provide you with new innovative ideas on how to help you as an employer and how to help improve your workplace. So anytime, not only today, but tomorrow and in the future that you've got HR questions, you can call the Alameda County HR hotline. It's completely free. The number is there on your screen, 888-202-5668. 888-202-5668. I sound like one of those radio commercials. So anyway, we're here to help you all year long because this is your taxpayer dollars at work. Utilize this. We have hundreds of employers who have called the line over the last couple of years, and we've had a myriad of wonderful webinars and presentations like the one today. You might also see that Alameda County is helping you, the employers in Alameda County, by posting things on Facebook for you. We can all do all kinds of social media things to bring awareness and help you find people. So if you need help about HR, you call this number. If you need help with getting seasonal workers, maybe you want to hold a job fair, talk to Alameda County. They can help you with all this wonderful stuff. They've got some great programs. Nobody here today is an attorney, especially not me, on this call. But we are here, we are subject matter experts. We can help you with your workforce. We can help you with HR questions. We're here to provide a lot of great information for you about things and services in your county. Got the franchise tax board here. We've got BACs here. And so let us know how we can help, but none of us are giving you legal opinions, and we need to let you know that. So I want to turn this next section over to LaToya. Because we're here to help you learn more about the homelessness issues, solutions, and what we can do for you. So LaToya, take it away.
Thank you so much, Kim. And I just want to appreciate you for giving such a wonderful introduction and overview. I do want to encourage everyone to contact our partners at the CEA for HR related and workforce questions. They're a wonderful partner. I would like to thank all of you for attending today. So just in a nutshell, we're here to learn more about homelessness, also the people impacted by homelessness through an enlightening panel discussion that we will have with the Bay Area Community Services. We're also here to learn about the critical role that employment can play for people experiencing homelessness, and also to learn about the California's homeless hiring tax credit and how it may be a solution in this tight labor market, as Kim was talking about, and also a piece around, promoting inclusivity. We also want to talk about how the homeless hiring tax credit really is a win for all of those involved. We want to have a space here, create a space for making connections between employers and job seekers experiencing homelessness. And so we're just really here, and we're happy to have you here, and we're wanting to make connections when possible. And so with that, I will actually pass the baton to my colleague, David Diaz, in our Business Services Unit to initiate our panel discussion.
Thank you. Thank you very much, LaToya. I would like to introduce to everyone attending this virtual event. I'd like to introduce you to our two panelists, Antoinette Watkins, Employment Coordinator with Bay Area Community Services, and Gonzalo Martinez, also an Employment Coordinator with Bay Area Community Services, who are going to share with everyone in this meeting some of the work, some of the experiences that they've had working with this population. So I'm actually going to start the conversation with a question for Antoinette, and the question would be: can you tell us how homelessness is defined and explain like the various circumstances that may lead to homelessness?
So I'll say everyone's first, good morning, everyone. Homelessness is defined as anybody that doesn't have a safe and stable place to stay. That is what we consider homeless. At this time, homelessness, the way people come into our sites can be various ways. So we have walk-ins. As one of the ways people can come in. They can walk into one of our walk-in centers. We also work with 211 to have people come in that avenue. And we have, they also do referrals from various programs. So if they are associated with homelessness, regardless of whether it's a food bank or Rubicon programs, we also have an organization specifically here in Contra Costa County called CORE, where they do community outreach. They will go to the various homeless encampments to validate that someone actually is homeless and the level of homelessness. The level of homelessness kind of how it happens falls in various ways, because I've worked with people who have been like I have one person who was a doctor and kind of fell on hard times, wasn't able to work anymore. And, once they became disabled, it kind of turned into a trickle-down effect, which led them into our program. And then you have some people who are just chronically homeless. But so there's various ways that they can actually get into our program and actually experience a level of homelessness, regardless of whether that's domestic violence, losing a source of income. We've seen a lot of different ways that they can trickle down into the category of homeless.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. So a question that we have for Gonzalo here and now on the other end would be, what has been your experience in hiring people that are experiencing being homeless, being unhoused?
Definitely. Well, I want to start off by saying BACS has actually changed the job, just has implemented the living experience in the job description, and we've also added recoveries from substance abuse. So who better than to help the community by someone who's experienced it firsthand. And it also comes with a different perspective, a different point of view, and it definitely helps tear down that stigma that is always attached to homeless or homelessness. Whether, some people believe that you're homeless, it's because, you abused any sort of substance. Homelessness can happen to anybody. It can happen at any time. I also think it comes with an added drive. A lot of the homeless, for the most part, they're all trying to get out of their situation. They're all trying to look for that opportunity. So it makes for great employees. Definitely some overachievers.
Excellent. One of the things that I think employers might want to know is like what kind of support these individuals are getting. So Antoinette, could you maybe provide a little bit of a background as far as like telling us the ways in which BACS supports unhoused people, including the employment support, before they move into a job?
So for BACS, what we do is we provide what would be considered wraparound services. So in order for a person who is unhoused to be a good employer or employee, certain needs need to be met. So we do not allow people to come in and just immediately throw them into the workforce if they are not ready. We support with making sure that they have all the documents that are necessary, an ID, a social security number, birth certificate, whatever that may be. We also support with mental health services. After being unhoused or living in the street, you do experience a certain level of trauma that's attached to it. So we do have that as a service that's offered to them where they can receive mental health services if needed. We also provide transportation support. We help them with getting clothing, anything that would be considered a barrier to their employment. That's what we support with, whatever that may look like. So for some people, you may get a person who fell on hard times as far as homelessness, haven't been able to see their kids, experiencing different anxiety as it relates to that. And so it's very important to try to support someone, not just financially with giving you like money for bus and BART, but also like I feel BACS holds a standard of like holistic health where we are trying to help the whole person, because every aspect, they kind of all work together. So I can't have an expectation that they're going to show up to work and present their best self if they don't have clothes, or if they don't have a haircut, or if they aren't able to receive like some form of maybe even a conversation with their child, just to let them at ease and let them know, you know, mommy or daddy is okay. So there's, every circumstance is different, but definitely we make sure that we provide help with every aspect that will be considered a barrier, regardless of whether it's financial, emotional, mental, whatever the case may be. I personally have had some people who have said that they do really well, like around water. And so where I'm located specifically, there's like a marina down the street. So while we're actually having our meeting, I will sit at the marina with them and still with my laptop, so that we're getting the work done, but there's a certain level of ease or comfort that they are receiving so that we can actually move forward. And I think by doing that and connecting them with other services and making sure we're focusing on the whole person, our turnaround for them starting a job and quitting a job and starting a job and quitting a job has been reduced a lot. The other thing that we definitely support with is connecting them with other community services that BACS partner with. So some of my clients that do have some form of a disability, we will connect them with the Department of Rehabilitation, so that they can not only focus on receiving the job, but they can receive a job where they have to be mindful of their disability and get the needs actually met in that aspect. The other thing that we definitely support with is education. Our goal is not just to get somebody a job where in the Bay Area, it's very expensive to live. Sometimes you do need a little bit of education to actually get you to a place where you can actually obtain a livable wage. So the way BACS operates is we kind of focus on the whole person and focus on the ending goal of trying to get them into something that is more career driven, so that they can not only get the housing and the stability that they need, but sustain it. Sometimes it's easier to attain it, but actually sustaining it is the actual work. And we want to make sure that we try to support them in that manner as well.
Excellent, thank you. Gonzalo, a moment ago, when you were talking about your experience hiring individuals that are experiencing homelessness, one of the words that you used was overachieving. So could you kind of expand on that and talk about some of the unique characteristics that employees experiencing homelessness bring to the workplace?
Yeah, definitely. So overachieving. I've seen a lot of people who've been hired who are homeless. They go that extra mile just because they have that drive of not wanting to go back to the same place they've been. Chances are they don't have any connections with their family members or any sort of relationships whatsoever, which is what landed them there. So they're 100% focused, very sociable as well, easy to get along with. Again, for the fact that they're kind of starting from ground zero. So they're making all those extra efforts to be at that level where any working community member is at, where you got some members in the community, you got your stable job, and and you want to guarantee that you have that job for when you get housed and you're able to bring in that revenue and what have you, eventually move off of assistance and be 100% independent, which is another goal. Get off of the assistance and become 100% independent.
Excellent. We just have time for one more question before we move on with the rest of the presentation. So I did want to ask a question real quick. I wanted to follow up with Antoinette. What would you say are the top 3 strengths that people experiencing homelessness, what are their greatest strengths as they move toward employment?
I think that I would say their perseverance is definitely one, because I personally have experienced a person who was in a construction training, and he walked every day to get to his training. He had, they said he had perfect attendance, and he ended up being like the valedictorian of the class. Like he they show a level of perseverance that I think some people take for granted. When you I consider all of us privileged that we haven't had to experience homelessness. So that privilege of not really knowing homelessness to this nature, I think has created a certain level of perseverance that they have. I think that they're very hardworking. Everyone that I've placed thus far, they all kind of go above and beyond, and they are quick to want to learn how to do something else because they've mastered the next. So their desire to kind of keep going, I think that their hard work is definitely unmatched. And I think the third thing I would say is they're appreciative. And I know for some that may not be like a big thing, but when you appreciate the opportunity that's given to you, you show up to work with a different attitude that is much more easier to work with, easier to manage. It makes kind of moving them in different directions or having flexibility as it relates to the position a lot easier. So definitely, I think that they show a level of appreciation that definitely lets the employer know not only do they appreciate it, but they want to be there. They want to work, and they want to show you that I can do this and I can do it well.
Wow, thank you so much. Thank you, Antoinette. Thank you, Gonzalo. Thank you so much for providing us this feedback and your experiences, both employers of individuals experiencing homelessness as well as service providers. Thank you very much for the information.
Yeah, some wonderful information, very enlightening, very enlightening. And what I heard was, the gratitude and the grit. And my gosh, those things make people great leaders and great employees. So LaToya, I'll turn it over to you here.
Yes, so that was such a wonderful segment. I appreciate you, Antoinette and Gonzalo, for sharing those insights with us. And I hope that those in the listening audience have learned more about homelessness and the various kind of circumstances, and that the population is actually rather diverse. And also the impact on real people and organizations that exist here in Alameda County, like the Bay Area Community Services, that provide holistic support to unhoused people every day to help them navigate towards success, regardless of their circumstances. And that was articulated both by Antoinette and Gonzalo. We've also learned how hardworking and diligent and resilient the population is. So these are all great characteristics of employees, right? So I hope that the homeless hiring tax credit is of interest. We're going to hear more about that in just a moment, as it can really provide a win-win situation for both employees and job seekers. Unhoused job seekers can find employment and get onboarded above the minimum wage, and companies can find workers in a relatively tight labor market and receive up to $30,000 in a tax year for doing so. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Cheryl Brandon, who will be talking about the homeless hiring tax credit, as her and Maricela Rodriguez are both part of the implementation team with the California Franchise Tax Board, and she will tell us more about the homeless hiring tax credit. Cheryl?
Thank you, LaToya. Let me do a little switch here. I'm going to share my screen. Just 1 second. Just 1 second, sorry. Technical difficulties.
Cheryl, I think if you go to the slideshow.
I'm not able to.
At the
For some
top.
reason, I can't get to the top because it's showing the bar for our meeting. Goodness, let's see.
If you hit the little table down on the bottom, it looks like a little table or a little screen. Oh, next one. Go to the next one. There you go.
Thank you. Goodness, last time when we ran through this right before the presentation, for some reason, then I was able to see at the top. Thank you very much. Anyway, yes, I'm Cheryl Brandon, and Marcela Rodriguez and I are the co-implementation leaders for this particular credit at Franchise Tax Board. And so we have been working on this since the legislation passed last year to make it functional and ready for employers and people who are experiencing homelessness to benefit from. First of all, I'll just give you a quick overview. This credit is available for taxable years beginning in 2022, so this year, through 2026. So it's for a period of 5-year period of time. Employer can receive from $2,500 to $10,000 per employee based on the hours worked in the tax year. And we'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. And the maximum amount that a particular employer or taxpayer can claim is $30,000 per year per employer. So as you can see, where the maximum per employee is $10,000, that would mean that an employer can have 3 or even more employees depending on when they're hired and how many hours, whether they're part-time or full-time. There's quite a bit of flexibility. And then the employer can claim the credit on their tax return, but if they do not have in the particular year, don't have enough tax liability to use all of that credit, then they can carry it over till the next year and for 3 years. This is the table that determines how much tax credit you actually receive. And again, it's based on the number of hours that the employee actually works in the year. And as you can see, it's kind of at a step basis. So at each level, you get a little bit more credit. And at 2,000 hours or more, which is essentially a full-time employee who's worked the entire year, you would get the full $10,000. Now there's 2 or 3 pieces to this, to getting the credit. The first is to establish that the person who is being hired meets the requirements of being homeless or experiencing homelessness or has been in the past. That certification is provided by continuum of care programs or community-based service providers. And if you are working with the California Workforce Board or one of the other organizations, they can assist you with getting that certification for a particular person. The certificate's completed by them, and then it's provided to the employer. And the requirements are that the person either has to be experiencing homelessness within the last 180 days, so that's essentially 6 months, or has received services from a homeless services organization in the last 180 days. So it's possible somebody who perhaps has been found a home and they are in a more permanent, stable housing situation, but they're still receiving services, which would make them still eligible for the employer to receive this credit. And for the certifying organizations, this is, like I mentioned, the continuum of care or other organizations that are connected to them. They're able to get the certificate from our website, complete it and print it and sign it. And then they provide the certificate to either the employer, or it could be given to the employee who then gives it to the employer. Ultimately, the employer is who needs to have this. And then the employers just keep the certificate in their records in case it is ever requested by FTB. Again, we wanted to show you the certificate. It's very, very straightforward, very simple. This is the top half of the certificate. It starts with the employee. This is the person who's being hired and the date of hire, and then the employer name. The certifying organization is, like I mentioned, the continuum of care, and depending on where you're at and who you're working with, there's a number of organizations that can help with that, with providing that certification. And so that we're asking for just who certified you, who's signing this. And then the bottom half of the certificate is where the person certifying will just check for if this is a new hire. So this is somebody you have just hired. They would check the first box. Once somebody receives a certificate, they are eligible to generate credit for their employer for 1 year from the time when the certificate is issued. And if somebody is still meeting those circumstances, and like I mentioned, if somebody is perhaps hypothetically they had been homeless, they have now, maybe in large part because of the employment they've received, they've been able to get in stable housing, but they're still receiving services to assist and support them in their new job and continue so that they continue in the stable housing, they would potentially still meet that requirement and be able to get certified again. And so that's for this, that's the second box. So somebody who was hired last year, but still meets those circumstances, still perhaps is receiving services, they would also be able to be issued a certificate. But that's what these two boxes are for. And then it's signed by the person doing the certifying, and that's it. It's very straightforward. And like I mentioned, the employer needs to have this certificate, and so the employer needs to receive it. As I mentioned, the requirements for the employee is currently or recently homeless, and again, that 180 days, or they've received services, and then to be certified by a certifying organization. So if a certifying organization, such as the Continuum of Care, has signed one of those certificates for this person, they're eligible. That's all that they need.
We've got
And
a quick question,
Sure.
Cheryl. Let me just interrupt you for a second, see if this is something you can answer or what somebody else in the panel. We've got one of the people on the line saying, how might a CBO become a certifier?
What's
This is they're launching on-site transitional housing programs for homeless young adults, and they'd like to pitch potential employers on the tax credit benefit of hiring them. So how do they become a certifier? Or
well, the people or the organizations that are able to certify is defined in the statute. It's it requires somebody who is connected to a database that is managed. There's our understanding, again, this is not FTB's area of expertise, but our understanding is the Continuum of Care has a database where they help to track people that they're assisting and that sort of thing. There may also be a local database that you are maybe part of. In other words, if somebody goes to I don't have a name, but somebody goes to an organization to receive some of these services like we had talked about, they may have some more kind of a database that they keep track of the people that they are assisting. And it's not so much that they become eligible to do the certifying if they meet that definition. Now, if sometime we have heard that there are some people or some organizations that are doing this kind of services, but they are not necessarily directly connected to these databases. They would just need to work with somebody who is that our understanding.
So Bay Area Community Services, BACS, would be probably a really wonderful partner
I
for
would
them to
think
reach
so.
out to, because they're already a provider. So I would suggest getting a hold of Antoinette or Gonzalo at Bay Area Community Services and going that route.
That sounds like a very, very good way in Alameda County for sure. And like I said, it's, differs every area of the state has a little bit different structure of services and providers and people that are assisting. So it's hard for us because we're on a statewide basis to address that, but it sounds like BACS would be a good resource in your area. Yes.
Yes,
Great,
and I'll
thank
just
you.
quickly chime in. I think that if you are a CBO, community-based organization planning to provide homeless services, that your connection to the homeless management information system and the Continuum of Care is probably, if it hasn't already happened, it's probably bound to happen at some point. As a homeless service provider, most homeless service providers are connected to the Continuum of Care. And so, and that's not everyone, but most organizations. And so that piece around being able to certify should actually be easier than not. But if you're still in the process of becoming part of that HMIS system or the COC system because you're a new organization, you could definitely, as has been stated by Cheryl and Kim, reach out to an organization like BACS that already has, that's well established in Alameda County and Contra Costa County.
Thank you. Yes, that's, like I mentioned, that's not our area of expertise, but that there should be somebody in your area that is able, and BACS sounds like a great resource. Okay, let's see. We'll go ahead and move forward. As I mentioned, the employers need to get the certificate for each employee. So it's on an employee by employee basis. One requirement is the employer has to pay wages equal to or greater than 120% of California minimum wage. And that's California minimum wage. In some cities, we understand that there is a different minimum wage that the city has set. For purposes of meeting this 120%, that's not relevant. It's just for the state California minimum wage. And then they have to, the last part that the employer has to do is make a tentative credit reservation with us, that's with Franchise Tax Board, within 30 days of hire. And the date of hire is considered the date the employee actually comes to work for the first time. It's not the date that you say, hey, I'd love to hire you. Can you start on the 15th? That's not your date of hire. Your date of hire would be the 15th or the date that they actually come. One really great resource that Franchise Tax Board does have is our webpage, and I want to point that out. This is just a snip of the top part of our webpage. Excuse me. To get to it, you just go to our ftb.ca.gov. That's our general public webpage, and search on the word homeless, and this page should come up as the top or close to the top search result. And we have lots of information here and contact information for both the California Workforce Association and the Continuum of Care. As I mentioned, we have this, you will need to get a tentative credit reservation. And that's what I would like to talk a little bit about now. Again, it's really, it sounds maybe a little bit complicated. It really is not. And we want to kind of walk you through it to understand. It's required in the statute that you have to get this reservation from FTB. And we have to track it for purposes of our reporting. You need a reservation for each employee, and you get it through our webpage. There's a button I'll show you in a moment, but you basically just click on the button and you're in the system, and it asks you the information, and you give the information, and you get an immediate confirmation that says, yes, you have a reservation for this employee, and it must be requested within 30 days. Now, the information that you need to get that reservation, again, very straightforward. The first is about the employer, or the taxpayer, the person who's wanting to get this credit. Who are you? Your name of your business. What are you? A corporation? Are you an S corp? Various different entity types are possible. Any entity type can get this credit. The ID number that you have for your business, your address, a contact at the business. It doesn't have to be the owner or anything like that. It's just it could be the bookkeeper, the HR manager, whoever. And then if you have a CPA or some other type of a paid preparer doing this for you, we just ask for the information on that. You absolutely do not need to have a CPA do this. This is very simple. But if that's who's doing it, we ask for that. So it's just information about who you as the employer are. And then we want to know who's the employee that is being hired. And we ask for their name and their social security number and the date of hire. And then we ask the hours that they're expected to work for the next 12 months. Again, this is an estimate. It's just kind of like if I hire somebody, I'm hiring you for 20 hours a week, say, then I would okay, if you work for 20 hours a week for the next 12 months, that would be roughly 1,000 hours. So I would say maybe 1,000 hours in the next month. Again, this information is something that we at Franchise Tax Board just need to provide some information to the legislature on this credit. And so that's why we're asking this. You are not held to that. In other words, if somebody is hired and you think, oh, I'm going to hire this guy for 20 hours a week, and he works for a month or so, and you realize this guy's great and I need more help, he's working 40 hours a week for me, that no problem. The reservation doesn't change. This is just for our purposes for tracking. And then the starting hourly wage that they are being given, as I mentioned, it needs to be 120% of the California minimum wage. And then you need the actual certificate. We looked at that before because we'll be asking who signed it. So this is what, before you get your reservation, this is the information you need. So it's basically, who am I as a taxpayer? Who did I hire and who certified them? As I mentioned, our webpage, this is a little snip of that portion of the webpage. You would just press this button where it says start credit reservation, and that takes you right into the system where we ask you, who are you? Who did you hire and who certified them? Then ultimately, the important part as far as the financial aspect of this for the employer is claiming the credit. And they will claim the credit on their tax return when they file it for the next year. And of course, at that time, you will know how many actual hours that employee worked and determine the amount of credit that you will be claiming for that employee. We have a homeless hiring tax credit form that will be available. It's not quite available yet because people are not yet filing tax returns for 2022. But in the next month or so, it should be available. And just include that as a form with the tax return. And then again, any unused credit can be carried over for 3 years. Here's our webpage address. Again, this is just our general webpage that has all, for all of FTB. It's ftb.ca.gov, and searching the term homeless should get you right to where you need to be. Also on our webpage, on the homeless webpage, so the homeless tax credit webpage, at the bottom, we didn't show it on this presentation, but we have an email address that anybody is more than welcome to send us a question. We are happy to try and help you and assist you with answering questions or anything that you might have having to do with the credit. If your question has to do with something about the hiring process, we can refer you to, or point you to where to look for perhaps the California Workforce Boards or some other organizations that might be able to assist. But we encourage you to send us any questions that you have. We're happy to try and help, and we usually are able to get to those questions within about a day.
Well, that's a good turnaround time.
Yeah, well, to be honest, it is Marcella and I answering these questions. It's fairly
Great.
small and works well. Now, that is the end of my presentation. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing.
Thanks so much, Cheryl. We appreciate all the detail. And Cheryl went through a lot of detail, but really that's all of it. So in 10 minutes time, you can have a lot of this done. And I appreciate Cheryl and Maricela that you want to make this as easy as you can. We really want to encourage employers to do this. And so it's not only about thinking bigger and opening your talent pool and getting somebody in the door who's got grit and determination, and you're doing a good thing for all of humanity by helping your fellow human out, but also the Franchise Tax Board is going to give you a financial credit and a financial pat on the back, which is beautiful. So let's stop there. That was a lot of information. We're at 10:42 and we want to be respectful of everybody's time. Are there more questions out there from those of you on the line, whether you're an employer, whether you're a community-based organization? What other questions do you have out there right now? Feel free to put them in the chat box or the Q&A box. Either one will work. And while you're thinking about those questions, one question that we commonly get is about the actual process of hiring. So if I'm an employer, can I put on my application, my employment application, are you or are you not homeless? And the answer to that is no, we don't want you doing that. If you're wondering, well, how am I going to know if people coming to me, I want to participate in this, but how do I know? Maybe people working for me are already homeless. Well, it's sensitive, right? And we don't want to invade somebody's privacy, but we can certainly let our current employees and our job seekers and our job candidates know that we are working on doing our part in helping with the homeless crisis. And in doing so, you can create a one-page sheet that you would hand to somebody who's filling out your job application or digitally doing it online that says, hey, our company is involved in the homeless hiring tax credit program. This is part of our culture. We believe in a diverse workforce. We believe in helping everybody. We believe in, whatever you want to say about your company culture, you can say, we are participating in this homeless hiring tax credit program. And so if you are homeless or have been homeless in the last 180 days, and you would like to, or have received home services in the last 180 days, and you'd like to let us be aware of that, then our company will benefit with a tax credit. So you're just informing your current employees, and you inform new potential employees and job candidates. And you know, it's a lot of companies even have a DEI committee, a diversity, equity, and inclusivity committee on their employee on the team. We do here at CEA, I know. And so this might be something to bring up to your DEI committee. Hey, are we doing enough to really show that we are an inclusive workforce? Here's another thing we can do to be more inclusive. And what are we doing? And so that's one way to go about finding out if a job candidate is homeless or not, and doing so in a very thoughtful, respectful, intentional manner. David, do you have any more questions?
I do. I do. Yeah. I guess one of the questions is a question for Antoinette. If you know what, Antoinette, what are some of the myths you would like to debunk at this time, as far as you know, hiring a person that has experienced homelessness? If you could, maybe your experience with BACS, you know, what are some of the myths, you know, preconceptions folks may have as far as hiring someone?
So some of the myths I think I've heard is individuals, they don't want to hire someone who's homeless because they're going to steal, or because they're usually on drugs. And that sometimes that is the case. I don't want to say it's never the case, but it is not. There's a larger number of individuals who are just trying to get back on their feet, and that will not. So we don't have to worry about. One thing I wanted to interject really quickly is the question that was just asked about how you can hire someone, or if you can add it to your application. For employers, organizations such as BACS, we partner with them all the time. We host job fairs. So reaching out to any of the employment coordinators that are within your county or close to your area, we always have a pool of people who are looking to hire. So maybe, I don't know if my contact information has already been provided, but if you would like to reach out to me or reach out to Gonzalo, we can connect you to individuals who specifically potentially would fit the position, as well as fall under the category as being homeless.
Excellent. Excellent. And hey, Antoinette and Gonzalo, if you would please, in the chat box, make sure you do put your contact info. That would be great. And you're saying you have employers right now looking to hire people, or you're saying we have job seekers right now who are ready and want to be employed?
We have job seekers who are ready and want to be employed.
Got
and
it.
We will provide everything that is needed. So what we do is we vet them before we actually send them over to an employer. So if an employer, let's say they were working at Oil Changers, and the person potentially doesn't have any experience but is willing to be hired, and they have customer service experience, we can basically be a liaison between the employer and the client to kind of streamline that process, so that one, they can make sure that they are going through the hiring process and still able to get the tax credit and get a candidate that will be best suited for the position. And so it's just an easier way for the employer to be able to utilize this tax credit, because we do a lot of the legwork for you, as far as making sure that they get to the interview, making sure that we prep them for the interview. If there's specific qualifications that maybe we need to put them in training for, we support with all of that.
Beautiful.
So definitely that is a way. But again, I do say, back to David's question, the biggest myth I think that I've experienced, especially when doing customer service or where there's merchandise, you get a lot of people who assume that because they're homeless, they are a thief and they are going to steal. And that is far from the truth. I have more people who, if you were walking down the street with them, you would not know that they are homeless, but they are currently living in a homeless shelter. So you get a lot. I feel like the biggest myth is when people think homeless, they think that the person is walking around dirty or on drugs or, different stuff like that. And you get people, when you go to Target, they're shopping at Target, they're shopping at your grocery stores. They're living life with us. They've just fallen on hard times. So
Right.
I think one of the other big things I'll say is that there is no look for homelessness. Sometimes I think people visually are looking for a specific look, and there isn't one.
That's excellent.
So you talked earlier a moment ago about how you determine how you go about determining if employment is a goal for someone that's experiencing homelessness. So once, and you talked about how you help that person as far as setting up the interview, the job interview, and doing all that. So once that individual is on the job, so you got them into the job, what are some of the programs, some of the support you provide once that person has started working?
So once the person has started working and they've been working for a while, if they are doing good on the job, we do have something called aftercare where we will support them, but we will kind of give them a little bit of more of space to kind of just do what it is that they do best. We definitely are more hands-on up until they receive their first paycheck. While they're on the job, I've also supported clients with coming up with like a budget. You say you want to move out, and we need to look at the budget to see what your reality can afford. Because you do get people where, they get their first paycheck and it's like, oh, I want to pay everything. But saving is a very important part of, making sure that you can not just get the job, but also sustain a certain lifestyle. We also support with like the ongoing support as far as like the mental health. I don't even think I mentioned it before, but we also provide at my site specifically, we have like a clinic that is on site. So the clinic will provide them with a physician that they can seek. We have nurses, we have a dental service that we provide so that they can not just go to work, but also be healthy while they're going. And I think we just leave our doors open for all of the what ifs. We also leave the opportunity open for the employer to address any concerns that they may have. Sometimes it may be a little difficult to tell somebody, I noticed this person has been coming in late for the last 3 days. Kind of, do you mind checking in with them to figure out what's going on? So I think we just provide, once they're on the job, it's almost like the job doesn't start. That's where the real work kind of begins, because now it's almost like training someone on how to make sure they're being a good employee, making sure if they do have a conflict in the workplace, maybe potentially drafting up a letter of how they can address certain things. Like if their shift is no longer working for them because public transportation is a problem, doing like mock conversations with them on how they can actually approach the employer to see if there's any flexibility with that. So those are all the things that we support with. I feel like when it comes to backs, the way it was explained to me is we don't have limits to where we are actually willing to support the client as it relates to getting them in the job and helping them sustain the job.
Great.
How much time do you spend working with the individuals experiencing homelessness? How much time do you spend as far as like developing a plan as far as like a emergency type job versus more of a long-term trajectory, long-term path that they may have?
I think that question is more dependent upon the client than it is like a specific time frame. So I have a client who, in all honesty, he gets his own jobs. He only needs help with transportation. So for that specific client, there may not be as much hand holding. Whereas I have a different client who he's been homeless for a significantly longer time, and he struggles with anxiety as far as how he's articulating himself, as well as he had some dental concerns that he wanted to resolve about how his presentation is outwardly. So I think that question is more dependent upon the client and where they are. And BACS is really good, or really promotes meeting the client where they are and moving forward from there. Then you also have the other big thing is, some people have almost trained themselves not to ask for help. And so for those people, I feel like they need a lot more help only because they're uncomfortable with asking for something in order for their needs to get met. So I always have to remind them, the squeaky wheel gets the oil. It's kind of like one of those situations. If I don't know that you have a problem, I don't know how to help you resolve it. And sometimes that come with just doing simple stuff. Like I had a client who didn't know how to get on the bus. I bought bus tickets and we got on the bus together. That's how we got to the interview, so that they can get comfortable with utilizing public transportation, because the reality is I won't be able to take them to and from work every single day. So we have to teach you how to do this. If this bus isn't working, what are our options? What apps do we have that we can utilize on our phone to make sure that you are properly navigating? I even go to the point of writing down a list of questions that they can ask, like the bus driver. Hey, I'm trying to get to the mall. Is this the correct bus to get on? Like, simple things that I feel like some people, because they have a little bit of potential fear with asking for help, that they will just get on the bus and just ride around. And I noticed when I am not as hands-on, I don't actually know that it's an issue until I ask, like, hey, so how'd the interview go? And they're like, oh, I didn't make it. I got on the wrong bus, and then I didn't know where I was at. And, I think those are like the little things that make a world of a difference, but it's still case by case, because you also get some who are very familiar with how to get around, how to talk, and they just really need some financial support and a little bit of boost.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, what I think is great for employers, I hope are hearing, I'm an employer myself, you're there, Bay Area Communication Services there to coach people to success. And so nobody's in this alone. We're all doing this together. The Alameda County Workforce Development Board is your other coach to help you, the employer, make this a really successful program. So hopefully we got a lot, your juice is flowing on things. Hopefully we did debunk some myths. That was fabulous, Antoinette. LaToya, why don't you tell us a little bit more as we wrap this up? We're just in the last 4 minutes here.
Sure.
What can we do to get started?
Yes, so that's a great segue, and it's really great to see the amazing work that BACS is doing. What an amazing organization, has been a really amazing partner. So definitely there to support. We're also here to support you as well. Thank you, Cheryl, for outlining how simple the process really is, and Kim for sharing how employers may approach this topic with prospective employees. So we hope we've been inspired, or that you've been inspired rather, to consider the homeless hiring tax credit to meet some of your hiring needs while helping someone find their path back to employment and stability. To get started, what you want to do is you'll go ahead and just you can contact the Alameda County Workforce Development Board, or your homeless shelter program or provider like BACS, and let us know about your current job openings. What we'll then do is collectively search to find someone. We at the Workforce Board, we have the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act, we have career centers, so we also serve people that are unhoused and looking for employment. So between both realms of work or just other partners in the space, we can help you find someone who kind of matches some of those skills that you're looking for. And then we will strive to introduce you to that prospective employee. And then what you want to do is just business as usual, right? In terms of, you want to still interview the job seeker, make sure there's a good fit. If the job offer is made, a prospective employee or employer has the option of obtaining. So, obtaining the homeless hiring tax credit certificate. So that can either be driven by the prospective employee, or the employer has the ability to also initiate getting the form certified by a CBO, and to verify that the person is homeless. And then, as Cheryl stated earlier, you just want to go online to the California Franchise Tax Board webpage. We'll have a link on the slide deck that will be shared, so you can find how to do it. And you saw snippets in Cheryl's presentation on how easy and straightforward it is to really reserve your tax credit online. So let's connect, let's stay connected. We have a lot of resources here linked. You'll find the link to the California Franchise Tax Board, some information, EDDs, new hire reporting requirements. We have our Workforce Development Board link there, Bay Area Community Services, and then also our partner at the College of Alameda is one of our career centers that also serves people with people experiencing homelessness. And so, there's a lot of partners here to help you succeed. Feel free to reach out to us, And with that, our information is here too on this slide deck, and we'll just stay in contact and hope that you reach out so we can really help you find people to fill those vacancies.
Wonderful. Terry, you want to take us home? We're right at the 10:59 hour.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. This has been so insightful. Really, it's been great to listen to. And I'm not necessarily an employer, but just the work that you guys are doing is really amazing to help others. So thank you for all of that and all this great information. I went ahead and also put in the contact information for Antoinette and Gonzalo, as well as the Bay Area Community Services and the California Tax Board information. That's all in that chat. For those of you who are looking for the continuing education credits, I'm putting in the HRCI and SHRM codes now, so you can go ahead and grab those in the chat box. And as you see on the screen right now, if you will go ahead and click that QR code, it will take you straight over to the survey, and we would love your feedback on that as well. Thank you so much. I did go ahead also and put the Alameda County Workforce Development Board's HR hotline, which is also 800-202-5668. That is there for you to use for any questions. So please utilize that. It is, like I said, here for you. Thanks everybody for being here. We really appreciate all of your attendance and questions, and we look forward to seeing you again. So have a really great day. Again, panelists, thank you for all of the great information. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Be healthy. Bye-bye,
Thanks,
everybody.
everyone.
Have a great week.
Bye-bye.